Hello, everybody, and you're very welcome to this episode of the Accountants Club. And as with every episode, we try to build on the previous episode to help you on whatever journey you're on and whatever particular journey you're on. I'd like to ask you a little bit of a favor at the minute at the start of this one, and I don't usually ask this, but if you could like and subscribe, it would make a huge difference to me personally and to my team, and it helps us with generating more content whatsoever. And I know everybody asks that. And anytime you listen to a story or a podcast now on YouTube, people are asking that. But I'm just asking you, if you get enjoyment out of this and you feel it's of value, please do. Today's episode is an episode called Agent Mode. And what is Agent Mode? It's the ability and the power to ask better questions. And it builds on from the advisory ladder and where you are on each rung of the ladder. So the last time we talked about that, but how do you actually start climbing the ladder now? And what is that all about? And it starts with the way you show up in conversations with your client. It's not about more reports or bigger spreadsheets. It's building better questions to ask the client. You are becoming the agent of clarity, not just their accountant. And remember, this is the 5 steps, and you're getting the advice in the leadership mode. And it's setting you up as this trusted advisor within the client and the conversations. So what does this mean? What does it mean in reality, like agent mode? And it means that you have to step in to the client's world and acting as their advocate. So picture the scene. I'm a client, right? And as a client, I need to have the following advisors, or I need to have the following people surrounding me. I need to understand banking. I need to have a banker, and I need to have a corporate finance advisor, lending and loans and that. And next thing I need to have a financial advisor. I need to have a bookkeeping. I need to have an accountant. I need to have a tax advisor. I need to have legal representation. I need to have my own professional advisors. All of these people I need to help me grow my business, and I'm not really interested in this. So if I decide today that I want to step into the role of advocate for my client, so the client goes and meets these people individually, or maybe they're the same person, but the client doesn't know the questions and doesn't know the details of how the relationship interacts between all of these people and where all of these people sit in. And we have there's a book there on Amazon called Connected Advice, which shows you the journey of all of that. And we're not here to talk about that, but that gives you a real picture of what this is about. But if you sit beside the client and understand everything to do with the client in terms of background, his family, what his goals and wishes and dreams are, all of that side of it, you're now in his world, and you sit beside him at meetings, not opposite him. And then the other people sit opposite him. So that's allowing you to become their advocate. Now, it's very difficult to do that with hundreds of clients, but you've all your teams of people and they can do it in certain levels. And that gets to the high level of the leadership side of it. So you can't do leadership with potentially all your clients yourself. So you have to share it out among your team, which is another area. But you're shifting now the questions you're asking about. So you're sitting down reading a set of accounts, and here's your accounts, and this went up by 10% and that went down, and here's your profit, and your margin has dropped because the cost of meat has gone up. And so, all of that side of it is reflecting on financial informations. But if you turned around and says, here's what your accounts say, but you're asking them is, where's your biggest issue within your business? Where are you finding the pain today in your business, and how can you help with that pain to move your needle in whatever format you want? And you're giving them a chance to talk. And this changes the position as somebody that's giving them a service and providing a service for them, much like an insurance, provider will provide professional indemnity insurance, and they'll have the conversation with you on that. And you're sitting as the accountant and you're providing the financial. You're changing. You have to change the dynamic. And this is, we're always talking about this. And this agent model will allow you to do that. You become their trusted partner. And the person, they can say, well, I know if I have a problem, I can pick up the phone and ring Paul. And I have Paul's phone number. And I can ring Paul anytime. And Paul will answer the phone or get back to me. And we offer that service, and all my clients have my number. And people get worried, yeah, well, they'll ring me at the weekend. So what, if they ring you at the weekend of a question they need answered, and that's the role you play. You're there to provide a service for them, or to be in service for them. And if you're willing to do that, then you're willing to. But what happens is people don't tend to ring you at the weekends. Very, very seldom. And then it's an urgent request that they need a clarification on. And that's appropriate. That's okay. But that brings you to the area of trusted partner and trusted advisor. And why is that powerful today? Why is that the difference that makes the difference? Because with the rise of AI-generated reports and automation and everything we're looking at here in the industry, commoditization of compliance work, it can't replace human curiosity. It can't replace the human element of talking to somebody and having the conversation with them. And that's the difference that's going to make the difference within our industry and within our firm. They don't need more data. There's so much data coming at people. They have no interest in more data. They need someone to interpret the data and prioritize it for them and make sure they're on their journey in the right direction. And that's what agent mode does. It does all of those things in its own right. So what's the difference between compliance questions and advisory questions? What's the power of better questions? A compliance question is, have you got those invoices? Have you filed this yet? And, are my tax returns up to date? How much tax do I owe? They're all compliance questions. And they're appropriate questions for the level of that particular side. But agent questions are, what's the biggest risk you're facing this quarter? What's the opportunity you'd love to capture if you had the time and effort to do it? What's the one thing in your business you'd love to change or do? These are agent questions. And these are questions that have a huge impact within the business. Some practical examples that you can use today on your business or on your client. What's the top 3 questions that you can ask as the agent for your client? And the first one, what's the one thing that would make the biggest difference to your business or you right today, this minute? What's the number one thing? The second question is, what's keeping you up at night within your business? A pain or a desire or whatever it is. What's keeping you up at night? And the third question, if we solve that, what would your life look like and how would you do that? They're three extremely powerful questions that if you sat down and just asked those 3 questions to a client, they're going to say, oh, wow, that's a different relationship, completely different relationship. Because nobody will sit down and spend the time to ask the better questions. And that automatically moves you up the ladder to advisory and leadership. Just by asking those questions alone, the client sees your relationship different. We were doing this in the time of COVID. Automatically, we done it inherently without even thinking about it. And then we stopped. And the client is wondering, I was getting this great service through COVID, but I kind of wish it was a bit COVID-y time now because I need all these questions, but they're coming to me with solutions and opportunities rather than solving problems that, after the event. So concentrate, get a look at those 3 questions, and we'll have a checklist at the end of this that you'll have the questions on them. This is one of the questions I was asked when I was talking about, can you share a story about agent mode in practice? A lot of times we sit down and we look at tax is a big driver and a big issue. So clients were looking on figuring out how to cut the tax bills. But after we asked a couple of questions, the real challenge in the business wasn't about paying the tax. The real challenge in the business was the cash flow issue. So we were coming up with solutions to help them play the cash. But by having conversations with the client, the problem they had was the cash flow, the very seasonal effect on the cash flow. Year end looked really good because it had loads of cash, but then the cycle of the money coming in and out and the seasonality affected our business reduced the problem with that. So the great question that we asked that one of the questions above, and that opened doors to a huge amount. And they said, well, look, we know we have a cash flow, we know it's a seasonality, but we don't really understand it. So we started setting them up with some dashboards, and then we started to build from the dashboards to looking at cash flow. We went from looking at cash flow to doing monthly management accounts. That's reporting, and that monthly management account scenario sits within compliance and reporting in some ways. But the real insight comes from the monthly meeting to go through the management accounts, to have the conversation about what they are. That's the real advisory and leadership side of it. If you wanted to pick one client, so I want everyone just to think about one of their clients that they have that they deal with on an ongoing basis. One of your top 5 clients that's really easy to talk to and call. And what would be the impact, do you believe, of asking those questions to that client? And if those top 5 clients, you automatically ask the questions to pick another 5 clients on a different level and just pick up and have a call with them and ask the questions to them. How do you think that the client is going to feel on one side? But then how are you going to feel after you ask these questions? Because I can promise you, the goal is in the follow-up, and the goal is in the clients that you currently have, internal before external. New client acquisition is great for everybody, but you have so much work you can do for your internal client base to increase the fees and the value of the practice that is just staggering. So how can accountants test this in their own client meeting? Start with one client this week, ask one agent mode question early in the meeting, And then you have two of these and one of these. So pause and listen to the answers. Listen to what they're really saying and take notes and understand that you can feedback very quickly how you can come back to these people and they will absolutely love it. So if you're following up from the meetings, and that's another point here, that the follow up and the email, and there's so many AI out there for, taking notes, taking minutes of meetings and all now, that you could bring back the questions back to them. Give them back the questions they've already asked and give them some methodology of a solution, how you can help to solve that problem. And 90% of clients will just say, yes, please help me with this. I'd love you to help me with this. It's going to make a huge difference in my life and in my business. And especially now I know I have somewhere else to go. And you're wanting this to raise this question in their mind. That's the immediate. So you're moving the conversation from the numbers element to the needs element. You're shifting conversations. This is the shift from a compliance to advisory. Don't like it, but it emphasizes the point we're trying to make. We're shifting from asking better questions. We're shifting into agent mode. We've went through the defining decade. We've went through the ladder. We're now looking at it, asking better questions. And this is building the whole time based on that. And you can learn a lot more about that in the Lead with Advice. There's a book written there, Lead with Advice. I'll leave a link for that as well. It just gives you a little bit more in depth on the conversations we're having here. What's the big takeaway message from this? I suppose the big takeaway message is the future of accounting isn't about who has the best reports. It's about who's going to ask the best questions. That's it. That's the simplicity of this thing. And it's so easy and so simple. And you just treat people the way you'd like to be treated if you went into a restaurant and you got 11-star service. You're doing exactly the same. We're in service to these clients and we just have to find better ways of helping them. What's next? I suppose next is you'll have a checklist here that you can use on your clients, or a cheat sheet. You're going to have a little infographic about the notes of this. So there's so much offered. There's ways of actually connecting in with us. You can subscribe to our newsletters, all of that side of it. And for me, I love doing this. It's something that I do because I think as accountants in practice, we need to protect each other and protect ourselves. And what's the last statement I want to make? I say this on nearly all podcasts. The numbers tell a story, but it's your advice that changes the ending. Remember that. The numbers tell a story. It's your advice that changes the ending. I'm really looking forward. The next episode, we're going to go into one plan in practice, and we're going to turn complexity into clarity. So we're going to make this thing simpler again. And the whole process is framework, simplicity, bringing it back down to basic steps today. What can I do? Thank you so much.